So picture this. You got two people, right? They have the exact same career,
Hmm.
the exact same salary.
Okay, I'm with you.
And they both have this, this identical goal to retire at age 65. Person A decides to put away $200 a month starting at age 25.
Smart move.
Right. But person B decides to hold off. They figure they'll have more disposable income later in life, so they wait until age 45 to start putting away that exact same $200 a month.
Which is pretty common, honestly. People always think they'll have more money later.
Exactly. Now, if you just look at the raw out-of-pocket contributions, person A put in $96,000 over their 40 years. Person B put in $48,000 over their 20 years.
So half the amount of time, half the out-of-pocket cash.
Yeah. Intuitively, you'd expect person A to end up with roughly twice as much money at retirement, right?
Right.
They put in twice the capital.
That's how our brains want the math to work.
But the actual math is just shocking. Person A retires with over $500,000. Person B retires with barely $98,000.
It's wild. It completely shatters our intuitive understanding of how money accumulates.
Right.
And that gap, that massive, disproportionate chasm between $500,000 and $98,000 is exactly why we are analyzing this topic today.
Oh, absolutely.
We're looking at a set of strategies and insights from Gruene Insurance Group focusing on the raw mechanics of wealth creation.
Albert Einstein is often credited with calling compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. He allegedly said that those who understand it earn it, and those who don't pay it.
Yeah, I've heard that quote everywhere.
Whether a theoretical physicist actually spent his free time marveling at retail banking math is totally up for debate. But the underlying truth of that quote is undeniable.
Completely. The math doesn't lie.
So the mission for our deep dive today is to take you from someone who merely saves money to someone who truly grows it.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to look at how to put your money to work while you're getting your 8 hours of sleep.
And my core philosophy has always been that knowledge is only truly valuable when you actually apply it to your life.
Yeah, for sure.
The barrier to entry for building lasting wealth is incredibly low. You do not have to be a millionaire to utilize these strategies, but you do have to understand the invisible machinery operating beneath the surface of a simple savings account.
Right, because simple saving is just addition. You put $1 in a jar, you have $1. You put another $1 in, you have $2. It's very linear.
Exactly.
You can visualize it like walking up a staircase, one identical step at a time. But compound interest is earning interest on your interest. It doesn't just add up, it multiplies.
Right, it's compounding.
You aren't walking upstairs anymore. You're stepping onto an escalator that is somehow accelerating the higher you go.
What's fascinating here is that the human brain is fundamentally wired to think in terms of linear growth, exactly like your staircase analogy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Our ancestors needed to know that 1 day of foraging equals 1 basket of food. 2 days equals 2 baskets. We are not evolved to intuitively grasp exponential growth curves.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
So when we look at the mathematical formula for compound interest, our brains immediately focus on the wrong variable.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you look at the actual algebraic formula for compounding, it looks terrifying.
Oh, it's a total alphabet soup.
Exactly. It's like A equals P times 1 plus R over N, all raised to the n power. There are parentheses, fractions, letters everywhere.
Most people's eyes just glaze over.
Totally. But
Yeah.
if you strip away the syntax, what is the actual engine here? If I'm just trying to grasp the core concept while I'm commuting to work, what is the single variable doing the heavy lifting?
The heavy lifting is done by a tiny little letter floating at the top right of that equation, the exponent.
The nth part.
Right. And that t represents time. We tend to focus on the principal, the starting amount of money. People think, well, I don't have $50,000 to invest, so why bother?
Yeah, they get set on the initial cash.
Exactly. But the true engine of wealth creation is the sheer number of years you allow the money to sit there. Frequency plus time equals power.
Time is the actual multiplier. Let's look at the real-world example detailed in the research. Imagine a one-time investment of $10,000 at age 25.
Okay, just 10 grand.
Yep. You put it in an account with a 7% average annual return, and you leave it completely untouched until age 65. That's 40 years of letting it sit.
40 years, all right.
Do you know how much new money from your own paycheck you have to add to that account after year 1 to make the math work? $0.
Nothing at all. You just leave it alone.
And yet, by age 65, that initial $10,000 has grown to just shy of $150,000. Nearly $140,000 of that final balance was created entirely by compound growth.
Mm.
The money literally did the heavy lifting so you didn't have to.
It is the financial equivalent of a snowball rolling down a very long hill. At the top of the hill, the snowball is small, right?
Sure.
It makes one revolution, and it picks up a tiny dusting of snow. But as it rolls, its surface area expands.
It gets wider.
Exactly. By the time it reaches the bottom of the hill, a single revolution is picking up more snow than the entire original snowball even contained. That extra snow is the interest on your interest.
Which perfectly explains why chopping that hill in half is so devastating to the final outcome.
Oh, it really is.
If time is the ultimate engine driving this massive snowball, what actually happens mechanically when we delay?
The math becomes incredibly unforgiving. Let's take that exact same $10,000 investment, but instead of starting at age 25, you start at age 35.
Okay, so a 10-year delay.
Right. You are only giving it 30 years to roll down the hill instead of 40. That 10-year delay cuts your ending balance nearly in half.
That is just wild to think about. You miss out on half the potential money just by waiting a single decade.
It's brutal.
It makes that opening example we discussed, the person who ends up with 5 times more wealth just by starting 20 years earlier, make complete sense.
Yes.
I feel like it's like trying to bake a cake but only leaving it in the oven for half the time. You wouldn't expect it to just be a slightly smaller cake. No, the whole chemical reaction fails.
That's a great analogy. When you chop off the last 20 years of the timeline, you aren't simply missing out on 20 years of standard linear growth.
Right.
You are amputating the exact period where the compounding curve goes vertical. In those later decades, the interest on the interest becomes vastly larger than your original out-of-pocket contributions.
So the penalty for waiting is just massively disproportionate.
Completely. Compound interest heavily rewards early action, and it violently punishes hesitation.
So the psychology here is just as important as the math. People wait because they think they need a massive starting principle. They think they need to be rich to invest.
Yep, they want the perfect moment.
But by waiting until they feel ready, they're actually destroying the one variable that does the most work, which is time.
It transforms the entire trajectory of a person's life. The barrier isn't capital, the barrier is action.
So if the secret is simply getting the snowball rolling as early as possible, the next logical hurdle is figuring out which hill to roll it down.
Right, where do we put it?
Exactly.
Right.
Where do everyday people actually find environments that allow for this kind of uninterrupted compounding?
Most people immediately think of a 401k or a standard brokerage account.
The stock market is definitely the default answer. But the materials from Gruene Insurance Group point to an entirely different sector that I think most people completely overlook.
You were referring to utilizing insurance contracts as financial instruments.
Yes. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because I think the average person views life insurance purely as a grim monthly expense.
Oh, absolutely. Like paying for cable, but sadder.
Right. It is a defensive bill you pay just in case tragedy strikes, and it only pays out when you pass away. It feels like a sunk cost.
Sure.
So how in the world does a life insurance policy function as an active, compounding wealth vehicle while you're still alive?
So understand that we have to differentiate between temporary coverage like term life insurance and permanent coverage like whole life insurance.
Okay.
Term insurance is exactly what you described, a temporary safety net. But a whole life policy actually builds something called cash value internally over time at a guaranteed rate.
Wait, so a portion of my monthly premium is essentially being set aside and grown?
Precisely. It is compounding year after year inside the structure of the policy itself. But the crucial mechanic, the real hidden utility that accelerates the math, is that this growth occurs on a tax-deferred basis.
Oh, wow. Let me see if I can explain why that matters so much for the compounding effect.
Go for it.
If I have a standard taxable investment account, like a brokerage account, every year that account grows or pays out dividends, the government comes in and takes a little slice of those gains in taxes.
Yep. The tax man always collects.
To use our earlier analogy, it's like rolling a snowball down a hill. But every 10 feet, someone forces you to shave a thin layer of snow off the top.
That's a painful visual.
Right. The snowball is still rolling, and it's still growing, but that constant friction is heavily slowing down its momentum.
That is exactly what happens. It is known in the industry as tax drag or leakage.
But with a tax-deferred vehicle, 100% of that snow stays on the ball. The money you would have paid in taxes that year remains in the account, to pick up even more snow on the next rotation.
That's the secret sauce.
That lack of friction over 30 or 40 years has to create a massive difference in the final balance.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, tax deferral is one of the most potent amplifiers of compound interest because you are earning interest on the money you didn't have to send to the IRS. And with these specific policies, you can actually access that cash value while you are alive. You can borrow against it to fund major purchases or use it to supplement your retirement income. It's a living asset.
It's basically a stealth compounding vehicle hiding in plain sight. And that concept leads right into the second type of instrument detailed in the research, which is annuities.
Yes, annuities.
I feel like annuity is one of those financial buzzwords people hear on television commercials, but rarely understand mechanically. What are they?
An annuity is essentially a contract you make with an insurance company, and it is perhaps one of the most direct applications of compound interest designed specifically for retirement.
How does it work?
You contribute money either in a single lump sum or through regular payments over time. That money grows tax deferred, utilizing that same frictionless snowball effect we just discussed.
Okay, so it grows without tax track.
Right. But the defining mechanical feature of an annuity is how it distributes that wealth back to you later.
How does it differ from just, withdrawing money from a standard savings account?
When you retire, the annuity converts your accumulated wealth into a guaranteed income stream. It is mathematically calculated to pay you a set amount regularly for the rest of your life.
For the rest of my life.
Yes. It functions like a personal pension that you literally cannot outlive, effectively transferring the risk of you living too long onto the insurance company.
So I'm essentially buying a future paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
But how does the money actually grow while it is sitting there waiting for me to retire?
There are a few different engines you can choose from. A fixed annuity offers a predictable, guaranteed compound interest rate. You know exactly what the rate of return will be, regardless of what the economy is doing.
Which sounds very stable, but maybe lacking in high-end growth potential.
Stability is highly prized when you are nearing retirement. But for those who want more growth, there are indexed annuities.
And how do those work?
This is where your account's growth is tied to the performance of a major market index, like the S&P 500. If the stock market has a great year, your account captures a portion of those gains.
Okay, well, let me push back on that. If it's tied to the stock market, what happens if the market crashes?
That's the big fear.
Yeah. What if we hit a massive recession the year before I plan to retire? Does my personal pension just evaporate?
That is the brilliant structural advantage of an indexed annuity. They have a built-in contractual floor. Usually that floor is 0%.
0%.
Meaning even if the stock market drops 20% in a single year, your account balance does not decrease. You simply earn 0% for that year. You might not move forward, but you never go backward.
But wait, how does an institution actually guarantee that? If the market plummets, where does the money come from to keep my account from losing value? They can't just magically ignore a recession.
It comes down to how the insurance company manages risk behind the scenes. They aren't just dumping your money directly into the stock market.
What are they doing with it then?
They use a portion of the funds to purchase options, financial safety nets, that protect the principal from market downturns. They absorb the downside risk entirely.
That sounds expensive for them.
It is, which is why, in exchange for providing you with that absolute floor, they will often cap your maximum upside. So if the market goes up 30%, you might only get 10 or 12%.
Ah, okay. So it's a trade-off. I'm trading away the extreme highs of the market in order to completely eliminate the extreme lows.
Exactly.
My snowball is protected from the summer heat.
That's a good way to put it. You are mathematically eliminating the sequence of returns risk, which is the danger of experiencing a major market crash right when you need to start withdrawing your money.
That actually brings up a crucial vulnerability in this whole strategy. Building this massive compounding wealth over decades is an incredible mathematical feat.
Definitely.
But what happens if a sudden emergency forces you to break the glass? Let's say you're 67 years old, you've built a great nest egg, and then you're hit with a massive unexpected medical bill.
Well, you're forced to liquidate the compounding asset.
Exactly. You have to withdraw the money just to survive the emergency.
Yeah.
And the moment you pull that money out of the account, it obviously stops compounding.
It's a huge problem.
The research we are looking at places a huge emphasis on playing defense for exactly this reason.
Wealth management is a two-front war. Offense is the compounding, defense is risk mitigation. The materials detail the necessity of Medicare supplement plans, commonly known as Medigap.
Right.
While Medicare is a fantastic foundation for health coverage and retirement, it leaves significant financial gaps. It does not cover everything.
So what does Medigap do?
A Medigap plan requires a predictable monthly premium, but in exchange, it fills those gaps so that a sudden hospital stay doesn't result in tens of thousands of dollars in surprise out-of-pocket costs.
So what does this all mean for the listener's budget? Let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Sure.
If I am really taking the lessons of compound interest to heart, isn't it completely counterintuitive to spend, say, $150 a month on a Medigap premium?
I hear this all the time.
Right, because we just established that investing that same $150 a month over time could yield incredible exponential returns. Why not just invest the premium and self-insure?
This raises an important question, and it highlights the paradox of risk mitigation. It absolutely feels counterintuitive until you run the math on a catastrophic loss.
Walk me through it.
Let's say you do exactly that. You invest the premium instead of buying the coverage. Things go well for a while. But then, at age 70, you require a major surgery and an extended rehabilitation stay.
Okay.
Because you lacked the proper supplemental coverage, you were hit with a $40,000 medical bill.
Which is entirely plausible in today's healthcare system.
Oh, very plausible. Now you have to sell off $40,000 of your carefully compounded wealth to pay the hospital.
Ouch.
Not only is that $40,000 instantly gone from your balance, but you also permanently lose all the future exponential growth that specific $40,000 was going to generate over the next 10 or 20 years of your retirement.
Oh, wow. You are amputating the snowball again.
Precisely. A single gap in your defensive strategy can undo decades of disciplined compounding in a matter of weeks. The insurance premium isn't a loss of investment capital, it is the invisible shield protecting the engine itself.
It protects the math. That completely changes how you look at the monthly cost.
It really does.
And the strategy extends beyond just healthcare. The materials also highlight final expense and burial insurance, which they refer to as the last gift.
Yes.
The concept is the same, right? Ensuring that end-of-life costs don't suddenly fall onto your family or drain your estate. A modest policy, maybe $50 or $100 a month, preserves your assets so that the wealth you spend a lifetime compounding goes exactly where you intended it to go.
To your spouse, your children, or a charity, instead of being consumed by a funeral home.
Exactly.
It really is about looking at wealth holistically. You build the wealth aggressively using the mathematical power of time and compounding, and you protect it fiercely by transferring the catastrophic risks to an institution.
Understanding the math is the first step, but executing it requires structuring the right vehicles and the right shields.
Consulting with licensed professionals who understand how these products interact is the logical way to tailor these concepts. Everyone's individual financial picture is completely unique.
Absolutely. So let's distill everything we have unpacked today down to its absolute essence for you, the listener.
Okay, let's do it.
If you take away only one core message from this deep dive into the mechanics of wealth, let it be this. The best time to start is right now. It does not matter if you are 25 years old or 65 years old. The most powerful variable in the wealth-building equation is time.
Get the snowball rolling. Understand the profound difference between linear growth and exponential growth.
Yes.
Recognize that paying taxes on your growth every year creates friction, and utilizing tax-deferred vehicles like whole life policies or annuities removes that friction, allowing the interest on your interest to accelerate unimpeded.
And finally, respect the fragility of that growth. Do not spend 40 years building an exponential financial engine only to leave it exposed to a sudden medical emergency. Build the wealth, but put a shield around it.
The math is incredibly reliable, provided you allow it the time and the protection it needs to work.
Before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final thought experiment to mull over. Take a second and try to remember the very first dollar you ever earned in your life.
Oh, that's a great exercise, like from a summer job or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe mowing a neighbor's lawn or working the cash register at a local store. Try to picture that physical dollar bill.
It's probably long gone, right?
Oh, definitely. Spent on a piece of candy or a tank of gas decades ago.
Yeah.
But imagine, just for a moment, if you had planted that single dollar in an uninterrupted compounding account back then and you never, ever touched it.
The math would be unbelievable.
What kind of sprawling financial forest would you be standing in today? We can't rewrite the past, but the mathematical laws of compounding haven't changed. So the real question is, what are you going to do with the dollars sitting in your pocket right now?